Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to our first segment of Quarantine Tunes, where I talk about the music that I listen to during my time in isolation. I hope you guys are doing well during these uncertain times, but hopefully things will get better as time goes on. So, I listen to a lot of music normally in my spare time, but I figured this extended homestay was a cool opportunity to put my listening habits to use. For example, I tried to focus on artists that I knew about and enjoyed music with, but I haven't actually gotten to know entirely, as in, my familiarity with them ranged from maybe a few singles or maybe an album or two. I've also tried to focus on artists that I've been wanting to dive into for ages, but never actually had the time, or seek out new artists, or find new releases from people I already loved. Finally, I also listened to some albums that I keep meaning to get around but kept putting off in the past. This isn't an accurate number because I can't be fudged going back and making sure, but according to my calculations, I've listened to 49 full length albums and 51 EPs. You do the math of how many hours that is. I'm not willing to figure that out myself. How many of those are new albums and how many are re-listens? I'm not willing to figure that out either. Here are some honorable mentions first. These are albums that only had a few great songs, gold nuggets among the Riverstones, if you will, but the rest of the album was kinda meh. So, number 1, Hopeless Fountain Kingdom by Halsey. Number 2, NCT number 127 by NCT 127. 3, Brotherhood by New Order. Fun fact, I unknowingly listened to the collector's edition, which happened to be an hour and a half long, and because I was determined to listen to it in one sitting, I sat there for an hour and a half, and it was not fun. It had a strong start, but obviously as time wore on, I prayed for it to be over. And who could blame me? Some of these mixes are 7, even 9 minutes long. I don't know why. Number 4, The New Abnormal by The Strokes. Number 5, Comforts of Madness by The Pale Saints. So those are all my honorable mentions. Here are my top 8 favorite songs. Usually I wouldn't rank albums because I'm a very decisive person, but this time I actually can. So let's have a look at this. At number 8, it's Take Off by Ocean from the Blue. This is an EP released by a Korean artist named Ocean from the Blue, released on April 7th, 2020. This whole album is a vibe. I like listening to it at night when I'm writing because I've kind of just blends into the background in a quiet, unassuming, and pleasant way. I saw this interview that the artist did talking about this particular EP and how he weaves his stories about his and experiences with depression into the lyrics. And I haven't actually looked into the lyrics myself at this point, but looking at the interview now, I'm excited to do a second take and see if I end up liking it a lot more than I did my first time. So, number 7, Time and Place by Kero Kero Bonito. This album was released back in 2018, and I've been a fake KKB stan this whole time because I haven't actually gotten around to listening to this when it was released 2 years ago. I think that might have been a good thing because this album is such a departure from their previous releases that I probably wouldn't have responded to the change well. I wasn't really into dream pop or shoegaze back then as I am now, and this shift into a rougher, more aggressive sound would have made me resent their exit from their peppy, cute electronic music. But my tastes have changed over the years and have allowed me an appreciation for dream pop and shoegaze now. So that's cool. I also really appreciate their more noise-oriented sound. Again, that's something I never would have been able to appreciate if I had listened to it back in 2017. So I guess I'm really glad that I've extended my music tastes so broadly since then. It allows me to appreciate a wider range of music. Number 6, Palo Santo by Years and Years. This was a really fantastic pop album. The house and disco elements, along with Ollie Alexander's expressive and vibrant voice, come together to create this bombastic and fun experience. Number 5, Sawayama by Rina Sawayama. This album was released only a few weeks ago in April. I wasn't feeling any of her pre-release singles, so I wasn't sure about actually giving this album a listen, even though I've been a big fan of her previous works before. I'm glad I eventually listened to it because, big surprise, I really like the B-sides way more. This is a really cool and unique pop album, even though there are so many early 2000s musical influences throughout the album. It doesn't feel stale. It feels like a time capsule, but not in the sense that she's just taken like a song from the early 2000s and brought it here. You can tell that this was made now. It's like she's using the tools from the past to say something about the present and therefore the future. And that's really, really intriguing and very, unique to Rina. So that's really cool. Number 4, Look by A-Pink. I was really looking forward to this comeback because I really like A-Pink. I wasn't vibing with Dum Darum the first time I heard it, and I still don't, to BH. But the B-sides more than make up for what I thought lacked in the title track, as is the case usually for most K-pop albums. Number 3, Present You by GOT7. Liking this album was actually a great surprise for me because I've been disinterested in GOT7 since they released Hard Carry, which was, 4 years ago at this point. They recently came out with a new EP, Die, which I thought was really boring, except for Love You Better. That's a bop. But then Spotify shuffled into another GOT7 song called I Am Me, and that slapped, so I decided to investigate where it came from. And fam, Present You is a fantastic, cohesive pop album and an astounding display of GOT7's producing skills and distinct voice. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and this album actually made me want to dive deeper into GOT7 and see how much I was missing out on all these years. Number 2, Fuzzy Brain by Dayglow. I've kind of forgotten how much I like indie music. The past few years since I got into K-pop, my desire to seek it out has kind of faded into the background. Or perhaps I just hadn't found an indie album that has really caught my eye. Regardless, this album has definitely brought the genre back to the foreground again, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more from Dayglow since this was their debut album. Even my dad likes a lot of the tracks from this, and that's really surprising. But who can blame him? This is really nice and feel good, and just nice to put on in the background if you want to feel nice. And finally, my number 1 favorite album that I've discovered during my time in quarantine, Fashion Week by the Death Grips. You could say this album sounds like a construction site for a monster truck factory and all the workers are on heroin. I can't even actually explain why I like this. Like, I'm aware that this album is just a collection of noise. There isn't even any lyrics, but at the same time, I'm also gravitating towards it. I just really like listening to it for some reason, which kind of makes me wonder if I have this underlying preference for noise that I never realized. Like, sometimes I wonder if when it's time to go out again, will I just walk down the street and I'll hear noise and I'll surprise myself by thinking, wow, that sounds nice. Anyway, I want to say that Fashion Week isn't music, it's an experience. That's so pretentious. But I think anyone who listens to Death Grips is a little bit pretentious anyway, so oh well. And that concludes the first segment of Quarantine Tunes. I'm hoping to listen to more music in the future and share my thoughts about them with the world. Keep an eye out for the next installment and see you guys next time. Take care.